Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're seeing this screen, you know what time it is. It is a new season for Gunfire Reborn, and we've got a bunch of other stuff going on, including a new DLC, but this video is going to be everything about rolling dice, so let me be your lucky rabbit on our guide through Fortune's Roll Season 6 of Gunfire Reborn. First things first, before we dive into anything, let's first talk about seasons, because a lot of you might be coming back to the game. Maybe there was something about this season or the DLC that caught your attention, and maybe you aren't familiar with the idea that Gunfire has seasons. So, first of all, you'll notice that we have the Fortune's Roll thing up here. If we click on that, you're going to get your Battle Pass looking thing, but don't worry, this isn't a microtransaction. This is just going to track your seasonal progression by playing the game and completing quests. You're going to get some experience that you use to unlock things on the reward track. You can also, when going to the new adventure area, click up here and you can try out other seasons in the past. If you play through this and you want to try out Arcane Talisman, or perhaps the Starlink one, which I thought was really fun, you can go back and do any of these. You can also put it on classic mode so that you have no seasonal mechanics going on at all, just plain vanilla. Additionally, if you go into the rewards tab, you can come up here to the season store and you can buy anything that you weren't able to get from previous seasons as they have rotated out. It will just cost you soul essence up here. So if there was anything you missed out on and you want to get it, like certain weapon skins or something like that, you can just buy them outright. And of course, when this season's over, you can just buy them then instead of having to grind for them. If you want to know how to progress through the season as quickly as possible, it's going to be through completing quests. Quests give you an additional amount of seasonal experience by beating them, and a lot of these are done just by doing a whole lot of damage or killing a lot of enemies or something like that. So to me, the best way to get as many of these quests done in a single run as possible is put it on the endless mode, Boundless Dream, and just go for a couple hours and try to get as much damage as you can. For example, at the start of a run, you're going to be doing hundreds or thousands of damage, but by the time you get through Act 4 and you start looping through the game again, you'll be doing millions, if not billions, of damage. So you'll be able to get these done way faster and have so many of them checked off that the season will pass by very quickly. I've used my other account that hasn't done anything on the season so that I can show you what it looks like when you're at 0 on the seasonal track. This is the screen that you're going to get. You'll get a couple of tooltips here, but I want to focus on things myself and explain them a little bit better than the game does. These are the dice. This is the main focus of the entire season. You'll notice that each of these dice have some sort of special thing on them, and then they have other higher levels on here. When you start out, there's only going to be normal die, and then as you progress through the game, there'll be more rare versions that can have higher tiers on them, and then culminating in the legendary die that have an even higher level on them. When you get a die, it won't have a value on it. You have to roll the die and get a value. Once you do, you'll be able to see what the effect is going to be. You can organize these by what their general grouping is. Just understand that this is going to be the main component of what makes this season tick. Now, to help with your dice rolls, there are fortune cards that help modify those dice rolls out. Active items have a charge on them. You'll see here that the reroll one that we start with has a charge of 45. When it activates, it allows you to reroll a die you have already gotten a value on. In order to get charge, you have to roll die, and the face value will give you that much. So if you roll 1d6, which is a 6-sided die, and you get a 3, you'll get 3 charge. If you get a 6, you'll get 6 charge. So rolling high not only gets you a better benefit on that die, it also gives you more resources that you can use in your run. Down here, we have passive items. These ones are always in effect when you're rolling die. They don't need to build up to anything. It's just anytime you roll a die, these things come into effect. You'll start with lucky number that just says, when you roll a 2, 7, or 14, you'll randomly add 1 to 4 points to it. And that will help you be a little bit more consistent at getting a higher number. You'll notice that most of these are locked right now, and that's because we're right at the beginning of the event. And if I come up here to my seasonal talents, you'll be able to see what things unlock as you progress through. Getting seasonal experience will give you more options in your dice and make them more powerful as you go. So your first couple of runs, you'll get a nice introduction to the ideas, and as you get deeper into the season, you'll have more and more possibilities open up to you with potentially more powerful results at the end. Now that I have shown you how it looks whenever you're at 0, I'm going to go to my now pretty much completed track. As you can see, we've already played the heck out of the season and we've unlocked everything. So once you look on this, we have a whole lot more active items on here and a lot more passive items. I'll go into this after we do a short run so that I can explain how things go in-game so that a lot of this makes more sense afterwards. One thing I will talk about before we go into the run is that you can favorite certain dice. As far as I know, this doesn't actually influence the randomness of them appearing. It just helps you get a little visual indicator of which ones you're trying to look for. So if you're doing a weapon run, you might want to get the firepower upgrade, which directly increases your weapon damage. Or maybe you want to come down here and make sure you get an elemental clip, or maybe something to do with weapon resource capacity. So if you want to make sure you get a little symbol on here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit a whole bunch of these so we're more likely to see one very early on. And now we're going to go into a run and just see what kind of silliness that we could do. I'm going to start with Momo because Momo has an entire tree of his hero ascensions dedicated to weapon resources, and I want to show you some cool stuff that can happen with that. We're going to start with the reroll and lucky number, so that you can see what it would be like if we only had those options. I'm gonna do myself a little favor here, and I'm gonna bump down my reincarnation level to 4. I think the dice are powerful enough to help carry you through a 10 run, but on the off chance we get some bad RNG, I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of leeway here. Okay, we found the primary thing for this Momo run, which is going to be Ink Wash Fusion. The important thing here is when it says, when staying in blank domain, which is the white ink on the ground whenever you do your drawing come true secondary ability, we're gonna get 2 ink rhythm and 3 weapon skill resource per second. Basically, we're going to get a weapon that has one of those bars that fill up, and we're going to try to make it so that every time it fills up, we could shoot it off and get it refilled right away. Here is our Fortune Merchant. This is where we're going to be buying all of the die through the run. There's going to be a couple things here to explain, so let's take a look at this. We have our reroll that we took in with us, as well as the lucky number. These are the slots, and we'll have a couple more unlock after we defeat the bosses later in the run. Over here, our pre-rolled die, and you'll see that this one is favorited because we marked that before, and we could just buy these straight from the shop. Now notice we have a new thing up here that wasn't in the game before. These are your shards. This is the currency that we use in order to interact with the Fortune Merchant and buy dice. I'm going to use 4 to buy this firepower upgrade. And you can see we've got a 2 rolled on it, which means we've only got a 20% weapon damage bonus. Spending 4 means we're down to 6, but as part of the seasonal upgrades, I have some rerolls here, so I could see something better. And look at that, a max roll has showed up. I want to grab this, but I'm going to take just a moment on this to explain something else, which is you get shards by rolling dice. Whenever you roll, you get some more shards. If I buy this now, I won't be able to buy anything else because I'll be down to 2. So I'm going to come down here to this custom pack, click over here on weapon, and I'm going to get myself some lucky shot. So now I can't buy this because, you know, I've only got 2 shards left, but by rolling this, I now get 3 shards, total of 5, and I can buy this now. So you can buy pre-rolled die, but you're not going to get a refund. But if you buy a custom die pack, you might roll low on it. So there's a little bit of gamba there. But let's slot these in, and you'll see that because of this, we have 80% weapon damage and 20% weapon damage for a total of 100. And then we've got a 30% lucky chance on top of that. So before we've even started, I've got double damage on my weapon and a little bit of lucky chance to go with it. And look at this, what a fantastic weapon to get for Momo here. The tracker has a resource ability on it, and this one is going to give us Fireball on crit hit. So the tracker automatically regens a lot of its energy as you go along already. But using Momo's ability, we can make that happen even faster. So here's what it looks like when we drain it out. Now I'm going to place down the drawing come true. And you can see it doesn't really drain down fast enough. We can pretty much permanently stay with tracker on as long as we're in the drawing come true blank domain. Just mow through them. Don't even think about it. I mean, I guess I gotta think a little. I gotta reload. We're a couple of rooms later into this run, and we've gotten ourselves the first demonic aura with a seasonal twist to it. If you played the game enough in vanilla, you would know that demonic auras are special events that pop up whenever you walk into a room or a new room starts. They usually appear on this side of the screen and give you a little information about what's going on. In Fortune Roll, you're going to see that over here at the top. You know what? I could probably do this while talking. So you can see 6 is the rolled number, which is the max. My passive ability dealing damage killed them. You know what? Future me, edit that in. The rolled number is at the top. That determines the difficulty of the challenge. At the bottom, you will see the reward, which will show you how many shards you get and the kind of die you'll get. Then in the middle, the body of the text is going to explain what the challenge is, and you'll see the corresponding colored number to indicate what is being changed by the die roll. The higher the die roll, the more difficult the challenge, but better rewards. Now that we have defeated the challenge, we also get that die reward, and you can see here that it is a rare die, which is going to be a D12. The numbers on it go from 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and 11 to 12, whereas the ones that we started with were simply D6s, 6-sided die, and their numbers are 1 to 3, 4 to 5, with 6 being the max roll. Extra energy here doesn't do a whole lot for us, but as we've already talked about, rolling the die gives us more shards, so we might as well roll them, and if we don't like them, we can sell them. Here are all the options. It kind of overlays on top of this, so I'm sorry if that's hard to see, but you can equip them with left click, roll them with right click. You could favorite them or unfavorite them with the middle click, and then you could recycle them to get money. Note, it is money, not shards. You will get gold from this. Now we can come over here to our Fortune Merchant and take a look at what we've got. Ooh, a max rolled lucky shot. Well, don't mind if I do. I'll just take that right now. If it's already in the slot and you can equip it, it will just replace that. Whenever you're doing a weapon damage roll, do not discount Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot is one of the easiest ways to make your run pop off. And the best way to know that you are popping off as far as Lucky Shot goes is the color of the numbers. I'd say in Act 1, if you can consistently get purple numbers, then you're probably ahead of the curve. And Act 2, you want to start seeing those red numbers. And by Act 3, you only want to have red numbers. Tidal Wall, you can see that we rolled a 4 on this for the challenge, and that affects the seconds here. So if this would have rolled higher, that would be a faster cooldown for them, and they would be getting the shield back even quicker. However, higher challenges give better rewards, almost always in the form of the shards, very rarely in upgrading the die to a higher level die, but it is possible. Now, with this challenge in particular, the shields will appear, but they are directional. If an enemy is looking away from you, you could just shoot them in the back. The shield won't do anything. It's not like the glazed barrier demonic aura, which is a bubble around them. If you're playing in multiplayer, you might be able to have one person take aggro and the other one shoot behind it. Additionally, if you have anything that isn't directional, like the Lay Low's thunderbolts coming from the sky, or maybe an AoE on the ground, the shield won't protect against that. However, a weird quirk I've noticed is piercing weapons will not pierce through the shield and hit the enemy behind it. It seems to absorb the entire shot when you try to shoot them with a piercing weapon. So let's put down our drawing come true. We're gonna have to do extra damage to get through these shields. Notice that I'm doing it horizontally to give myself the ability to dodge back and forth instead of just throwing it straight in front of me, because then I would feel like I need to walk forward and back in a straight line and get shot by some nerds. As you can see, I feel like the die are giving us a lot of strength here. We're getting a lot of power considering that our weapon skill is very usable, very spammable. Well, this multiple Tempest could be a good choice here for us. Doing the right click could give us a big explosion. Yeah, you know what? Let's take this and we'll see how this does. Let's roll our die and get some resources. There we go. If I needed more money, I'd put this one on, but I think my money is fine. And a firepower upgrade. I'm just gonna save my resources. Why wouldn't I expend them all right now? Well, after Act 1, you will start to be able to buy rare die, and after Act 2, you could buy legendary die. I want to hold on to my resources so that when it comes time to upgrade, I can try to refill all of my slots with higher level die, and then use the rerolls and whatnot in order to get what I need most. And let's see how this boss fight goes. It's against the Golem, and we're just gonna see if we can destroy him with some lock-ons here. I'm getting a strong yes out of that. And there we go, Act 1 beat, no problem. We get a new Fortune Merchant, and you will notice now we have 2 rare die, and the custom dice pack is on rare. So all of these are gonna be rare, and we now have a 4th slot. Weapon skill, for weapon skill damage, that's gonna be something that we definitely wanna get. So let's grab one of those and roll it. You'll see we're at 33. And now that we've rolled, we get a few shards back. That is the low roll of it, so why don't we use our active ability to reroll? You can see we have 13 out of 45 charges towards the next one. That's because we've rolled several times and we've gotten 1 charge built up. So let's come here to our weapon skill and give that a reroll. And now we've got the max roll, fantastic. And now we're going to have 80% weapon skill damage, and every 200% weapon skill cost plus 200% weapon skill for 10 seconds with a max of 5. So that is a big increase for us, and we're gonna want that on pronto. Give me that. You'll also notice that it has a 2 equipable on it, so we could go for another one. Let's see if we can upgrade this lower one to a better. This doesn't do us any better immediately, but it is a D12 compared to a D6. So I can get rid of this one and put this in its place. Then maybe later on we'll have a chance to re-roll it. And go ahead and do another lucky shot re-roll. A 12. Fantastic. So this one is a purple and this is a blue. I'm gonna just get rid of that. Instead of getting a second lucky shot, now that we got that one to 12, I'm gonna go for a weapon recharge here. You'll see this one says minus weapon resource capacity and gain weapon resource every second. If we can get this one on the team, that could help out a lot. And boom, a max roll on that means that we could probably get rid of this extra lucky shot here, because this one's pulling in 60 for us, and we'll throw you down. You might be able to get re-rolled later, so we'll hold on to that, but this D6, you're off the team. Alright, so now is where we get to see how fast we can recharge these right clicks and how damaging they are. Let's see. Well, I'm seeing red numbers already, which is a good sign. Same boat. When the monster takes damage, part of it is shared, but this time they rolled an 11. See, now we're on to D12 die. You can see the reward here is shards and a rare or legendary dice. See, we got a little bit of mistranslation here. We got a room to clear. Boom. Problem solved. Boom. Problem solved. I love solving problems. Spawn them in. We're gonna get as many marked as we can. Almost one shot. Concurrent Cooldown could have an amazing effect here. It's going to reduce magazine ammo per second and gain stacks after reloading. Each stack gives extra weapon damage and stops consuming when it's under half or at 1 round left. Since we are not using the primary firing mechanism of the gun and only the right click, that means we should get the bonus from this and none of the drawbacks. So you can see it ticking down right here. And as it ticks down, we will get more weapon damage. But as long as we're only right-clicking, we'll be fine on that, and we'll stay at max stacks. And if you get Concurrent Cooldown and you use the die that I think we just picked up here, Extended Magazine, you'll see Extended Magazine not only increases your weapon's magazine capacity, but it also gives you reserve ammo per second, and at the higher levels restores magazine ammo per second. Because of that, you can continuously fire, and as long as you don't hit 0 and force a reload, then you will keep those concurrent cooldown stacks on and do extra weapon damage. It can be a powerful combination, and on top of that, it works with single fire weapons. Take for instance the brick. It is a magazine of 1 because you're just chucking a brick. But because of extended magazine, the magazine for the brick will become 2 or more if you stack them up. And it will go up 1 and then down 1. And I think that's pretty neat. Oh no, a bunch of dudes. And they're dead. There are some people that might say this run is pretty strong. I would be one of them. Alright, yeah, look at this. We've got a couple of seconds here where I'm not ready to shoot again. I don't like that. I want to be ready to shoot all the time. I want to do nothing but right-clicking. That's the whole purpose of this run. Just look at it. Look how good it is when we can do it. That's like the entire screen. Hello, everyone. Goodbye. So why do I want to get this on it? Now, the important part here is the averaging of their weapon resource. We wanted to get a really low one so that the weapon resource cap would get maxed out faster and we would be able to generate those right clicks quicker. And away we go. Hostile Siege. Leader monsters will show up with the chance to appear in the level, and the HP and shield of the monsters will increase greatly for each living leader. So we gotta get rid of these leaders as fast as possible. Wherever they may show up, you can see the purple on that lizard indicates that he is a leader. Our downtime, as long as we stay in blank domain, is like about 3 seconds, I'd say. 2, 3. And then every 3 we do, we get an instant rebate on another one. Elite Gathering, the real test of our build strength. I'd say one-shotting him seems like a good outcome. Yeah. Come on, come here. There you go. Oh, and a 2-for-1. Ooh. Aerial hit's a fun one. We can increase our explosion range and ballistic speed. Here, I'll get it just to show you the hovering. The reason why I don't think this one is too amazing, you could definitely get a lot of benefit out of the explosion radius. That one's pretty nice. The slow fall is fun. See how you can just kind of hover in the air? You can kind of hover from building to building. You can be like the Artificer in Risk of Rain 2 and sort of hover over the battlefield. The problem is that characters don't have a lot of jump height on their own. So you're going to have to use environmental effects to get in the air. That's either going to be the zip lines and other things like that in order to get into the air. But the boss arenas don't have a lot of elevation to use. And so this ability to fly around is only really useful for clearing waves of enemies. And I feel like being a target in the air isn't that amazing. I would rather be able to be on the ground hiding behind things. Look at this beautiful skin. Just hold on to it just to see it. This is the reward for completing the season. The golden bow. And let's see how the Act 2 fight goes. I'm gonna place down this ahead of time. If we let the animation play out, I am standing in blank domain the whole time, and you'll see that when we come back, my little ink thing is already gonna be filled up. Just like that. Not that it mattered, but you know, maybe for you it would matter. After defeating the Act 2 boss, we have our Fortune Merchant, and you will notice we now have legendary die in the shop. They now go up to red at 17 and 18, and those are going to give some amazing abilities. A lot of times these have linear growth going from blue to turquoise to purple to gold. Once you hit gold, usually they start adding on extra little things to them, and then at red, they really pop off. It goes from 120% to 200, which is a jump of 80 over the jump of 40 from the one below it, and it's getting a 20% rate of fire. So let's give that a roll. And we got a 12. And why don't we get another one? Because this one's our only purple left on the squad. So grab me that. Still a purple, but we do have rerolls, so why don't we give that a reroll? And see where we go. Hey, another legendary. Cool, so we can finally get rid of you. If we could get a red weapon skill, that would set us up probably for the rest of the run. Ooh, nat 1. You hate to see it. Well, we'll hold on to this one, and then whenever we get the opportunity for another reroll, we'll see about using it there. Oh, a little bit of downtime on the right click there. Oh, what's that? Even more weapon damage if we can land those hits? Well, considering that aim is not a requirement for this run, I think we'll be fine. Oh, a max roll on the Bean Troop. So 3 out of 4 attacks will constantly spawn enemies. I need to like back up just to keep things in scope longer. There we go. And boom, I am inevitable. So now our resource capacity is down 40% and we're getting 3 resource every second. Elite Gathering, we put down our thing. I right click you, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. And you're dead. Oh, you could see that happen in real time and hit a 14, and then because of our lucky number, it got added 3 points and went up to 17. When it first hit, it was a red 14, and I was like, what's going on? And then it showed itself. What's our boss gonna be? It's the snake. So, snake's kind of changed. If you haven't played in a couple seasons, it now has invulnerability phases like the boat. Looks like we're gonna have to deal with all 3 of these. I'm gonna get on the side here. And that way we hit as many as possible with it. If you have like a piercing weapon or something like that and all the heads pop out, trying to get on the far side and shooting all the way through them can give you a ridiculous amount of damage. And that's all I really did there. And now that we are post Act 3, every one of these die up here are legendary die, which is going to give us better opportunities to get reds in here. You love to see it. We'll throw you down. So we've got 2 weapon skill, 2 firepower, a weapon recharge, and a lucky shot. Boom. Love to see that. And with that, we're going to go into Act 4. With an endless assault and cold trucer. Well, skilled trick is one that we definitely could use on this run. So let's take skilled trick because every time you use a weapon skill, you get more lucky shot bonus up to 10. And we are going to be able to spam that so fast, we should be able to stay at max stacks. This entire run ended up very powerful. I don't want to say that you'll necessarily end up with an equally strong build if you try to walk in my footsteps, but hey, who knows, maybe you'll get an even better one. Arms dealer, I don't think we're consuming ammo, so this doesn't actually benefit us. You can see the stacks of arms dealer. I'll right click and see if it causes anything, but everything in my bones is screaming that arms dealer doesn't do anything for us. My bones have been wrong before though. And they are in fact wrong. So even though we're not using ammo, arms dealer still counts it as ammo expended. That's pretty cool. Learned something new there. The last of the elite gatherings. One more time. We're gonna celebrate. Hey, and we got it. Hell yeah. We got red, 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 red. 4 out of 6 slots being reds is pretty nice, with our main course of being weapon skill at the max on both of these. While I don't think we're so strong, we're gonna one-shot the boss through their invulnerability phases or anything, I think we're going to make a pretty good show of it. Let's skin a bear. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, 5 shots. Wait for the reticle. 6. And there you go. That was reincarnation level 4. Not a huge achievement, but I think it shows we had a plan from the outset. We executed the plan and things went perfectly well. And this shows the power of the Season of Dice, I'm just going to finish this one out and head on back so that we can talk about all the other options and my recommendations on what to take. After each run, you'll come back to the lobby. You get seasonal experience based off of things that you completed during the run. You'll see the rewards that you've unlocked, what seasonal level you're at. You'll also see the tasks that you completed in order to get those seasonal experience points. Whenever you have new ranks up here that are completed, you can come up and click on this and then claim them. So, now that we've had a successful run where I've shown you how to build something and lay into it, let's talk about all the other options that you have in here as part of your fortune cards. We've seen reroll, we've used reroll. I like reroll, it is a solid choice. It is the one that you'll get from the start, and I would not blame you if you kept using it. Another solid choice is convert. Convert says, convert a rolled dice to choose one of 3 random dice, inheriting its original quality and value. So let's say you're later in the run and you see a legendary red roll show up. You could buy it and then use convert to hopefully hit one of the things that you're looking for your run. It's going to be a random choice out of all the other dice. It doesn't seem to follow any logic on particular ones. Like if you have a weapon die, it's not going to give you other weapon die. You could get skill die, general, whatever. But this does mean that you can keep re-hitting a red until it's something useful for your run. That one could be pretty good. Also, if you're just trying to unlock the information on the die, see how this one is a question mark? It's because in my runs, I have yet to see a red die for Pinpoint Blast. If you're trying to just get all of the information unlocked, you could do a run on Endless with Convert, get red die, and then just keep on converting until you've gotten everything unlocked. Another one that I think is pretty strong is Refine. Refine says select a thrown die to +1 to 4 points. If it exceeds the dice's max value, subtract the max value. Basically, this is just you pushing it and hoping you don't bust. So this one's nice whenever it's in that neighborhood. It can be a little sad that, you try to push it up there and instead you bust, or you tiptoed just a little bit closer and now you gotta really worry about busting. But this feels a bit more consistent than just doing a full reroll. I would say the next useful one would be Copy. Copy says select a dice to copy, obtain an identical unused dice. I don't like it as much because basically it's just another reroll with extra steps. Yes, if you got a die that was legendary early due to one of the events or something like that, then you could get yourself a copy of it that's also legendary, which would be good. The problem is that this is your only active item. So if you copy it and it rolls low, then you didn't really get a benefit out of it anyway. And it only really is useful in that specific situation of getting a higher rarity early so that you could copy it. Because otherwise, you can get any copy of any die if you just go to the shop and buy one. So I don't think that's incredibly useful, but it does have a niche case. Next up is Fuse, and this one I feel like is on the less efficient side of things. So it says select 3 rolled dice to merge. Their effects and quality determine the new die. What this could be used for is early on getting a higher tier die. Say for example you get 3 firepower die. You can combine them together and get a legendary firepower die. However, again, this is your only active die. So you could have taken 3 pretty good rolls, merged them together, got a higher rarity die, and have it be really low rolled, and then there's nothing you can do with it beyond there. I don't like this because 1, it takes multiple dice to merge them together and then produce a new die that you can't change the outcome of after you have it. If you try to take 3 different die and merge them together for a higher legendary, it could be any one of those 3. And if you're looking for something specific, that could easily end up with a dead die. This one feels so much worse than just re-rolling something of the same level and hopefully getting a higher one. But I won't deny it is possible for you to get a red reel early if you combine a couple of rares together, hit a legendary die, and hit the max roll. It does have that potential. Lastly is probably the Stargaze. It's the last one you unlock, so you think it would be the most powerful, but in my opinion, it's pretty worthless. So let's read it. After use, all dice in the next dice selection pack are rolled. That has a very specific use. It is the highest cost. You can see Convert is a 25, Fuse is a 40, Reroll's a 45, Copy is a 60, Stargaze is an 80 cost. So it's going to take a while to get to that. So basically, you're going to want to use this after every act boss, because after beating an act boss, you're going to get a new selection of dice with a higher rarity on it. You activate this, then open up the pack, and you'll see every single die in the pack is already rolled. So you can select the best one for yourself. So out of the ones that you have available that you're looking for, you can get one of them upgraded to the max roll, because statistically speaking, one of them is going to be in that highest tier. But that's the problem. You're basically only using this in one situation, which is after an act boss, trying to fill slots of your lowest rolled things with at least 1 or 2 guaranteed dice rolls. But then after that, it doesn't really have a benefit. If you are already at legendary dice and you are trying to target roll specific outcomes, like I was doing in that last run trying to hit that weapon skill die, this doesn't help very much at all. Yeah, you could hit it and then open up a dice pack and then look at any of the ones that you're looking for a higher number, but if you've already got a couple of them locked in at the highest they could be, that doesn't do you a lot of good. And again, this is your only active. So you don't get rerolls. You won't be getting converts on it. Once you have what you have, that's it. That's all you've got. So in my opinion, Stargaze can be useful for getting yourself set up for the next act, but because it's not useful outside of that specific situation and carrying on into the later parts of the end game, when you're trying to target a very specific high roll on one of your die, then it's not going to be very useful for that. Now, with the passive items, we only saw the lucky number on here, but a lot of these can be very useful. I'm going to talk about the ones that I like most, and that is going to be the Stored Interest. Stored Interest says gain 1 energy after switching stages for every 5 energy owned. So basically, if you don't use the energy on this, then you're going to get more energy every time you go to a new stage. Which is why I said I normally don't use my charges early on. I wait until after the act boss to start buying things, because I want to hold on to them for when I go up to that next rarity, and then I can buy the die and then re-roll them with all the energy I've stored up, or refine them or convert them, whatever I may have. Charge Boost is basically in the same vein. It just says that you get more active fortune card charge speed, so this one can basically ramp up. This one is consistent. Either one of these are nice for just building up your energy to be used later. Recycle Enhance is a very useful one in that you are going to have a lot of dead dice during your run, and as you saw, whenever we're done with them, you recycle them and get gold. But what this does is make it so that you have a 50-50 on getting energy whenever you're recycling them as well, which will help pump up your active item. Last but not least is the third count. When I initially saw this, I didn't understand the point of it, but what it says is double the chance for 3 or multiples of 3 when rolling dice. So whenever you roll, there's a chance that it'll be a 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, or 18. Whenever you're dealing with legendary die, it's really nice to get that guaranteed 18 whenever it can show up, but obviously, getting 3s, 6s, and 9s at that point doesn't really help you at all. But the fact that it can lock in at 12 and 15 when you're using Refine, which can bump it up 1 to 4 points, means that you can get into situations where you can roll for that red spot way better. This in combination with Refine is very strong. This is what I've been doing ever since it was suggested to me, and I would suggest it to you. Next up here is Data Blackhole, and I really just don't understand the point of this one at all. You can see randomly pick a number X, which is 1 through 6. This roll can't result in X, X plus 3, or X plus 6. So if the number rolled is 1, it can't roll a 1. a 4, or a 7. The only thing I can think of that this could be useful for is near the end of a run, whenever you are rolling for really big numbers. This would get rid of 3 numbers that by necessity would be under 12. But in the process of getting to the end of the game, this can really screw you up. Because imagine if the number rolled here is a 3 and you're at the very beginning of the game. That means that die can't get a 3, a 6, or a 9. So on a D6, you just got yourself locked out of possibly getting the top roll. Or if this does hit a 6, you might have locked yourself out of getting the 12. So before you get to the point where you're going for 17 and 18, this could actually shoot you in the foot so hard by locking you out of max rolls. I have no recommendation for this. If you have some use for Data Blackhole, please let me know, because otherwise I think anything else could be more useful. This brings us to the last one, which is Split. Split says, when rolling rare or legendary dice, split into 2/3 6-sided dice and use the total sum as the final result. If you know anything about dice, whenever you roll a whatever sided dice, each side should have an equal chance of showing up. But if you split it into smaller dice, 2 things happen. 1, the average number is going to be more represented, and also the minimum value is going to be higher. Here's what I mean. If you roll 3 6-sided dice, then the lowest amount each of them can roll is a 1, and if you add them together, that means a 3. So the lowest you can get when rolling 3 dice is a 3. Now, the top number is still the same, but the bottom number is higher. However, the problem in this game is that we are trying to get the highest number possible in order to get the best outcomes. You want to get a 17 or 18. What you don't want is to get a 10 or 11, which are the average numbers between 3d6s. If you get 3 3s, that's a 9. If you get 4 4 4, that's a 12. These don't help you get to the red number. So having that split die doesn't help out a lot. I didn't want to bounce back and forth between that screen and this one, but these spiritual blessings that you unlock later in the season actually can help out some of these passives that are a little bit on the weaker side, in my opinion. You can see here it says anchor point equals 1. Dice roll always greater than anchor point. Every 50 total rolls, including before getting this spiritual blessing, the anchor point is +1, up to 10. If the anchor point is greater than the dice's max, then the dice roll is always max. Very wordy, but what it basically means is every time you roll a die, the face value is the points that you get. You roll a 6, you get 6 points. You roll a 3, you get 3 points. And then every time you get 50 points, it's going to up the minimum value your dice can roll by 1. On its face, I don't feel like this one's very useful. That's because by the end of the game, I'm usually sitting around 300 or so points, which if you divide that by 5 means you get 6. If you're rolling for legendary dice on those red numbers, then getting a minimum of 6 doesn't help you out a lot. And I don't know if the math makes it so that when they're rolling the dice, it is a generation between the anchor point and the max, or if it's between 1 and the max, and then it just pushes it up to 6. Not sure, I haven't seen like a lot of the anchor number getting hit. The next one I want to talk about is lucky number. It says, reroll on 1, 7, 13. On 6 and 12, obtain an unused dice of higher rarity. Max legendary. If you take this one with the 3rd count, you're going to be very likely to hit that 6 or 12, because those are multiples of 3. And you're going to get way more unused dice of higher rarities. This is so strong that if you take lucky number and go to the very first merchant with the 3rd count, it's possible to just random roll into legendary rolls. I even have this video here of me starting out a run with a red because of this. Now, I still don't know if that's actually worth it at the end of the day, because you're taking up one of your spiritual blessing slots in order to get better dice. And getting better dice early is good, don't get me wrong, but you're also still limited to 3 slots. So even if you fill those up, you've got 3. And by the end of the run, almost every setup can get a decent amount of reds anyway, and you'll have one of your spiritual blessing slots taken up by lucky number instead of something else. Needless to say, having a dice explosion early on, let alone at any point in the run, can feel really good. You can also generate a lot of charges because you're going to be rolling a lot of dice, which gives you the opportunity to buy more dice and roll more dice, and then selling them gives you more copper. So lucky number could be a really good generator for the start of your run. If you really want to play into the dice aspect, I would say get lucky number and third count and go to town. Plus, you could be a little exploitative because if you quit a run before going into the first level, you don't lose any of the resources you used to start the run. So if you wanted to be a real lame-o, you could just sit there and restart the beginning of the run, grab lucky number, go over to the peddler, buy dice, and re-roll them until you get legendary starts. The last one here is lethal dice, 100% final damage from dice effects. When you complete a room challenge, obtain X count. X equals points for that challenge. Each time you roll, buy, or obtain dice, gain X amount based on dice points, plus 1% final damage from dice effects per count up to 450%. So clearly, this is something built for dealing damage with dice. Lethal dice is fantastic if you have things doing direct damage from dice. And you might be saying, well, didn't you say all of those dice were just affecting your abilities? True, but that's because later on in the season, you will unlock damage dice. So let's come over here to the dice gallery and go to dice damage. There aren't a whole lot, but each of these can be pretty strong. Bounce dice will shoot dice forward and bounce between enemies. Corrosion spike will send out homing shots that hit nearby enemies. Thunder wrath sends down a lightning that hits enemies. And fortune meteor sends down meteors. If you played in the Talisman League, you'll kind of recognize these abilities as Talisman power gems that had similar effects. But now they are dice over here, and they have increased abilities based off of what they roll. In addition to this, you have Dice Amp, which can help increase your dice damage. Auto Core, which reduces the cooldown speed on these dice specifically. Cooldown Loop gives that cooldown whenever you use your primary skill. And then Lightning Ring is another one that does shock in an area, but it also says you take self damage. So it's not one that I've really invested in. I will say, out of every build I've done in this league yet, the most consistent victories I have gotten has been from damage dice run. Taking lethal dice as your first spiritual blessing and then doing nothing but stacking up corrosive spike is really good. Why corrosive spike? Because this one triggers on dash. After dashing, fire 5 homing shots at the nearest enemy within 25 meters. That's really good. Then you'll notice it has an equipable 2, so you can have 2 of these on your bar. And then on top of that, you can get a dice amp on here so that you can increase those dice damage. Since these, outside of bounce dice, are elemental, you can get any of the elemental bonuses. So you can get elemental surge and get extra damage per elemental effect on an enemy. You can take elemental expert so that you have better elemental effect chance. And of course, if you're doing this on solo play and you want to just absolutely steamroll the game, the good old choice here would be to take Painkiller, so that whenever you inflict an elemental effect, you inflict all of the effects at once, and then you could just focus on any element and do massive damage. Painkiller, go into the game, get lethal dice, then do nothing but dash and send out corrosive spikes. It is a cakewalk. Even on R10, you will get free wins, and I will probably make a video on that in the future just to highlight it for people that didn't make it this far into the video to see this. The last thing I want to do before ending out this video is to look at specific dice and tell you about my feelings on them. For the most part, a lot of these are self-explanatory, and there's not really a whole lot that you should worry about. I mean, look at this one, critical, you're going to get extra crit X on it and a chance for the weapon damage to trigger a critical. But I'm going to go through here, look at each one, and I'm going to stop and say a little spiel about them if there's something I've noticed about them. I guess the first one that sort of comes to mind are these ones that ramp up really fast. Firepower upgrade, you know, it's just straight weapon damage, But notice how the red gets 200% and a 20% rate of fire on there. That is a big jump up from 120. You're not only going to do more damage, but you're going to do more damage and have it attack faster. So while there's nothing really special here that would throw anyone off, just keep in mind how much of an increase some of these reds have over their yellows and how much the yellows may have over their purples. For any of you that were a fan of the Wild Talisman in the Talisman League, Burst Shot is exactly that. What it does is it turns any gun into a burst fire weapon by replacing your magazine with a special magazine. You'll see in the purple level, you get 4 rounds and you shoot them all at once. This does work with things that would normally have a lower amount than that. So for example, if you have the brick, you will throw 10 bricks all at once. It can be very silly, a lot of fun. I would highly recommend doing a run with this at some point just for the absurdity of it. As I explained in the run, Extended Magazine has some interesting interactions with some other stuff because of the magazine restoration in there. Having a bigger magazine and having ammo restored to it once you get to the legendary or red affixes is really good. Some silly stuff can happen. I think the most obvious one for anyone that's played the game for a while is the Demon Lore. The Demon Lore is a gun that increases in damage the more crits you have, but it resets on reload or weapon swap. But if you have something that can generate ammo for yourself, like against the flow, Tau or Albai's abilities that give ammo back or stop you from consuming it, or this, then you can keep yourself from ever having to reload, and you can keep stacking the damage bonus from the Demon Lore. This one has a lot of applications for it. If you're doing a weapon run, there's a lot of good use cases for it, so keep that in mind. Pinpoint Blast, I think, is pretty fun. The idea of it is when you crit with a weapon, then it's going to do an explosion that does 1/5 of the weapon's damage as an explosion. That's probably way better at the red, but I haven't seen that yet. The benefits of it come out in the elite and boss fights because the single target damage is amazing, but it's real easy to get overwhelmed with a lot of enemies if you've really focused in on the crit. Taking this and getting this to a high level makes it so that you could just pick off one guy in a group and it will explode and wipe out the grouping and makes it so much more manageable. Highly recommend that one for a crit run. I don't think I touched on this during the run at any point, but the Lucky Shot has an additional bonus on here. It's not just that you get a flat amount of Lucky Shot, but as you can see, it says you get an additional bonus for so many seconds when HP is lost or recovered up to 5 stacks. What I found in my testing is that anything that has a constant regen or degen on your health will still apply this bonus when you're at the max or minimum. For example, if you have Flesh and Bones, which turns all of your shield into health, and then you get a passive health regeneration, even when you're at full health, it will still treat it as if you are recovering health. If you have Airbag, which says as long as you're at full shield, you will constantly lose health until you're down to 1, and then if your shield breaks, you get a full heal. Airbag's degen still triggers even when you're at 1, which constantly ticks off the lucky chance here. So if you have anything like that, any sort of health regen on dashing or any of the other dice that give you health regen, this can get you even more Lucky Shot, which is fantastic. Elemental Clip up until the point where it hits the red is okay, but it's not that amazing in that on Elemental Effect you restore some ammo to the magazine, and for 5 excess of ammo you get an elemental damage upgrade. But once it hits red, very importantly at the end there it says shots that hit apply a random elemental effect chance. Notice that doesn't have a chance on it itself. It is a random elemental effect chance, so you are guaranteed to do an elemental effect. That means anything that's triggering off of elemental effects or any other thing that benefits from enemies having elemental effects gets insane once you get Elemental Clip up to red. One thing to mention about Lucky Recovery is it says restores HP when firing the last ammo in a magazine and you get extra Lucky Shot chance. A lot of things in this game don't work off of a one-size magazine because it doesn't actually count as reloading for a lot of things, but in this case, it does. If you have a brick or a golden bow, something that is a one-shot weapon only, the rocket launcher, this does still count as that. So every time you shoot it, you are getting the lucky shot chance and you're getting the heal. So this one could be pretty good for survivability and damage if you need it on those runs that have very low magazines, even down to 1. Just like with the firepower upgrade, skill boost is ridiculous at the red level. Look at this. It does a 200% skill damage upgrade, which is an 80 improvement over the one below it. But more importantly, you have a 15% chance to boost the final damage by 300% when dealing skill damage. Final damage, total damage, whatever that means, is the final calculation is getting that benefit. And think, 100% extra damage means you're doing double damage. So 200 would be triple, 300 means quadruple. You have a 15% chance when doing damage with a skill to quadruple it on top of the 200%. And again, note that 2 are equipable there. So you can have 2 die giving you this chance. Now, could it be 15 and then 15? Could it be 15 that will do a quadrupling and then a 15% chance to quadruple that? Not sure, haven't seen the math on that yet, but the fact that you can have 2 of them means the damage from skills from getting 2 of these to red is utterly ridiculous. Not a big caveat here, but Spirit Strike basically says that when you do skill damage, you store some of that damage, and then the next time you deal weapon damage, you take a 1/5 of that, or however much you have on that roll, and apply it to your next hit as true damage. I haven't found a lot of uses for this, but the Tiger on a Thunder Strike build is pretty amazing because you'll activate his primary, go into Fatal Current, and then if you have Lightning Governor doing Chain Lightning or Thunder Nemesis doing Lightning down, then you'll do a lot of skill damage, build up a big pool, and then the next time you pull a trigger on someone's head, you'll do even more damage, which is likely to reset your magical supply or whatever else. I'm sure there's other characters that could use that a lot, but I just feel like with that specific sort of run, this thing super pops off. Inner Flow can be very useful on the characters that it specifically helps, and thankfully they put the names of the characters in there so that somebody that doesn't have a resource ability on their character doesn't accidentally use it. So Lee, the Firefox, Momo, the Ink Squirrel, and King Zhu, the DLC character that just came out that's a lion. This helps them keep their resources up. For example, if a lot of you are familiar with Lee and her Kamehameha Fireball ability, what this basically does is make it so that you have a chance to get the resources back that you spent so that you could do it more often. I'll go over more of this with King Zhu because it helps him out a lot. But if you're doing Momo or Lee and you want to keep those resources up, this is fantastic for them. This is one that I'm going to caution you against using. This says increase primary skill damage taken per hit. This, to me, reads as on the enemy. You are not going to get a buff that increases your attack damage to everything when you land hits. Because one, this doesn't say that it lasts a certain amount of time. It seems to be permanent on the enemy that gets hit by it. But additionally, unless you're doing a specific kind of primary run with most of your characters, you're not going to be able to spam it fast enough for this to matter. Because if you're hitting them with your primary ability, how many of them are going to die after 1 or 2 hits of the primary? Probably most of them. So you're not even going to get to max stacks. And then for the ones where you are rapid hitting them, instead of ramping up to a higher amount of damage dealt, you would probably rather just have something that increases the skill damage amount by a lot more. So while I think this could be good in certain situations, for the most part, I would caution you against this on a skill damage run. It can be a good multiplier if you've already got some other things, like you already have 2 dice for skill damage and you want to have another thing adding on to it just as an additional multiplier to your multipliers. But I feel like there are some better ways to eke that out than Arcane Storm. Blood Magic is one that confuses me because it says on use cost 20% max HP, 20% damage after use, restores 60 HP per 3 seconds, max HP plus 30. So, first of all, it doesn't tell you what the on use is. I did a little bit of testing. I'm pretty sure this is happening on the primary, but it didn't feel like I lost 20% of my max HP, but it could be that I lost the 20% and then immediately got that tick of 60 before even seeing the number go down all the way. So I'm not entirely sure. There seems to be a little wonkiness there. It could be on any skill damage, and I just wasn't noticing it on the secondary for whatever reason. But this is another one of the die where I feel like there's something wonky going on here, and I'm not exactly sure if it's working right, let alone if it's worth it. Arcane Box is one that I think can be very powerful. The problem is just the RNG of it. The randomness makes this one hard to say because you're basically giving up one of your slots to increase your survivability or your damage in more guaranteed ways for the chance to get drops of scrolls. So you do get a guaranteed damage increase per scroll, which at later parts in the game can obviously be super helpful. But the other part of it there is that you have a chance to drop a curiosity box on defeating normal elites and bosses with different percentages there. I've only gotten the purple one here, and I had that purple one, re-rolled it a bunch, and still never got my gold or red, so I'm not sure how much that improves. But basically having this through an entire run and not getting that many curiosity box drops. And curiosity box is basically just random scrolls. It's a drop for random scrolls, can even be a curse, but you want to have a lot of extra scrolls through your run because that is just power creep. You get more and more power from it. But despite the chances here, the RNG on my dice rolls were sucky, so maybe this would be better at yellow and red. But to me, I never really got that many more scrolls over the course of the run, and it didn't pay off. But I think if you get this at a yellow or red, having that slot in just to get more passive scrolls could be good, but I would just caution against the purple one because in my experience, I didn't get a lot out of it. The last thing I want to say is that I saw someone mention that bounty magic was really good because it helps you set up all of the copper that you need for the rest of the run, and I can understand that. Personally, since I've maxed out my account and I get so many weapons from recycling, especially since I normally play on higher reincarnation levels and run into more elites, so I get more weapon drops more frequently, I feel like I never really have money issues, so it's not a big deal for me. But I will point out that maybe for you, your experience in the game is different and you need some money. Bounty magic could help you out with that. It is one that you can get early on. And if you just have one of your slots taken up by that, the passive copper gain could keep you fueled for the rest of the run. But personally, my opinion is that if you're burning through your money that fast, there's probably something else that's the reason for it, and having one of your dice slots taken up by this could probably be served better with something else. Alright, and with that, I think I have gone over everything that I want to talk about for the Season of Fortune's roll. If you have any of your own information that you want to put down, some exploits, some interesting combinations that you've seen, I've put in like probably around 40 to 50 hours in this season just to make this video with all the information I've compiled, but that definitely means I haven't seen every permutation of character and archetype and dice combinations, so there's definitely going to be things that I'm missing. I'm going to talk about the DLC in the next video, so make sure to look at that, which should be like up there. Of course, you need to like and subscribe and leave comments and stuff for the algorithm so that this video gets some more views on it, and share it with your friends and whatnot so that they can know about all this information. But until I see you next time, remember to take care of yourselves and take care of those around you. Bye-bye.